World Cup final, second half, minute 90. The score is tied. The ball drops to the striker inside the box. He controls it. He shoots. Goal! You scream. Your neighbor screams. The bar down the street explodes. The entire block loses its mind. Now, freeze everything. Imagine that in that exact moment, that goal, that play, that one single second, all 8 billion people on planet Earth screamed goal at the same time. Not half, not a billion, 8 billion. Every living human being on the face of the Earth, simultaneous, coordinated, one single collective scream from all of humanity. What would happen? The answer is way more unsettling than you think. Before we get to the science, let's address the most obvious practical problem here. How do you get 8 billion people to scream at the same time? It's already hard enough to get 8 people to agree on where to eat. Think about it. You'd have to convince billions of Americans who couldn't care less about soccer. You'd have to convince that one guy at every party who just sits in the corner judging everyone. You'd have to convince 1.4 billion Chinese, 1.4 billion Indians, indigenous communities deep in the Amazon who have never seen a television in their lives. But let's just say it happened. Miraculously, mysteriously, maybe it's the greatest goal ever scored in World Cup history. A last-minute stunner in the final. Every screen on the planet broadcasting the same moment. Everyone saw it. Everyone felt it. Everyone screamed. Okay, now what?
Let's start with the basics. What actually is a scream? Sound is vibration. When you scream, your vocal cords vibrate. That vibration compresses the air around you, and that compression travels outward in waves until it hits someone's ears. One person screaming produces about 80 decibels on average. For reference, a motorcycle driving past you is roughly the same. Now here's where most people get the math completely wrong. You don't multiply 80 decibels by 8 billion. That's not how decibels work. The scale is logarithmic, which means every time you double the number of sound sources, the total volume only goes up by 3 decibels. So 8 billion people screaming goal at the same time would produce somewhere between 110 and 120 decibels. 110 to 120 decibels. That's equivalent to standing in the front row at a Metallica concert, or sitting inside a jet aircraft during takeoff. Painful. Very painful, but survivable. Now here's where it gets interesting, and this is where this video goes somewhere you haven't seen before. Sound is energy, and energy at sufficient scale doesn't just disappear, it moves. 8 billion people screaming simultaneously would create an atmospheric pressure wave traveling outward in every direction at 340 meters per second, the speed of sound. That wave would circle the entire planet in approximately 37 hours. But here's what nobody talks about. This has actually happened before. Not with people, with a volcano. In 1883, the Krakatoa volcano erupted in Indonesia. The explosion was so violent that the resulting pressure wave circled the Earth 4 times. 4 complete laps around the planet. And it was recorded at weather stations in London, New York, and Sydney. 8 billion humans screaming goal doesn't come close to Krakatoa. But modern seismographs are infinitely more sensitive than the instruments of 1883. Scientists around the world would register the event, not as an earthquake, but as an atmospheric pulse. A collective exhale from humanity, leaving a measurable mark on the planet. The Earth would literally feel the goal.
But the real damage? It wouldn't come from the sound itself. It would come from everything after. First, the animals. Dogs, cats, birds, wildlife, all of them with hearing far sharper than ours. A human scream at this scale would trigger total panic across the animal kingdom. Entire flocks of birds would take flight simultaneously all over the planet. It would look like the Earth sneezed and the birds were the dust. Second, the babies. Every single baby on planet Earth would wake up crying at the same time. 8 billion adults screaming goal, followed immediately by the sound of 300 million babies losing it. The most chaotic World Cup in history. Third, and this one's actually serious, glass. Windows. Already weakened structures in stadiums, old buildings, unfinished construction sites. The peak pressure spike in densely populated areas would cause real, measurable physical damage. Not the end of the world, but somebody's insurance company is going to have a very bad week. And now, The question everyone always asks. Could you hear it from space? No. And the reason is simple. Space is a vacuum. Sound needs air to travel. Out there, there's no air. There's nothing. Absolute silence. But here's the twist. The astronauts on the International Space Station, floating 400 kilometers above us right now, probably also watching the World Cup, wouldn't hear a single thing. But their instruments would register it. Atmospheric pressure sensors, temperature readings, magnetic field data. The collective scream of humanity would leave an invisible signature on the planet, a data scar that scientists could identify decades from now. In other words, the universe wouldn't hear the goal, but it would notice. So the next time you're watching a World Cup match, when that goal goes in, and it will, and you jump off your couch without even realizing it, and you scream louder than you planned, and the whole street erupts around you, remember this. Your scream is a wave traveling at 340 meters per second, moving through air, shifting molecules, carrying energy from your lungs outward into the world.
You're not just screaming. You are literally moving the world. Imagine 8 billion people doing that together. Now, go watch the game. If you've already screamed at a match this week, drop a comment below. What was the moment? And subscribe, because the next question on this channel is even more absurd than this one.